off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnar-Chuck, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Tristen Katcher. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I didn't ask before we turned the mics on, but I'm assuming the big H is for...
It's for Homer.
Hey, love it.
Yeah, no place like Homer.
Is that one of your like...
That's our hashtag right now, yeah.
Oh, really? I like it. So I always tell listeners or ask of listeners, if you are on iTunes or Podbean or Stitcher or SoundCloud, head on over to YouTube and check out where we're at. Today it is 9:48 by my watch in the morning on Wednesday morning. We are at Homer Street Cafe here in Vancouver, where chef Tristen Katcher holds fort most nights of the week.
Most of the time, yeah. You know, I try to keep it balanced, but I'm here quite a bit. But it's fun. Like I said, no place like Homer.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for having us into your space. And obviously, thanks so much for making time for me and the listeners. I'm super intrigued to dive into everything with you. Disclaimer, Tristen and I shared a coffee a few weeks ago, probably like a month ago.
Yeah, about that.
And we just kind of chit-chatted about life and industry and all those things. And so I kind of know a bit of your story and how you came to be the head chef here at such a beautiful restaurant in Vancouver. But the listeners perhaps don't know your story. So let's fill in the gaps of you and food and you and head chefing and you and your journey and what brought you here today, Wednesday morning, sitting on a podcast, rapping about food.
All right. Start it right at the bottom, I guess, right?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I got really into food in high school back on Vancouver Island in Comox, thanks to Miss Mann, actually, Michelle Mann. So shout out to her and the North Vancouver Island Chef Association. I started staging around and started working at locals with Ronald St. Pierre and really just got completely introduced to food there and what it actually means to work with proper produce. Worked on a farm for a little bit while I was there and actually got the chance to like grow the vegetables, bring them to work that night and cook them, and that was just really, really inspiring for me. Fast forward a couple years, ended up in Vancouver and sort of tried something completely new, went a little more modern, worked with like Wang Dang and at Diva at the Met, and started getting introduced to like way more modern food and things that I hadn't seen before, you know, the kind of stuff that was on TV. And then took a bit of a break, actually, a working vacation in Whistler. Met my wife up there. Spent some of the best years of my life, absolutely. Met my best friends, people I consider family now. And then came down to Vancouver. I made a little pit stop down on Lummi Island to stage there at the Willows Inn and really, again, got completely reinvigorated with what it means to be connected to your food, picking blackberries on the way to work, things like that. Mm-hmm. And then, I found myself in Vancouver working around again, worked with Boulevard for a little bit, getting into the modern side and more classical French, and kind of just a mishmash of everything now that I've seen, and ended up at Tableau Bar Bistro as a sous chef. That was my first introduction into leadership. And then fast forward, I guess, about a year later now, and here I am at Homer Street as the chef de cuisine.
That was a very concise and succinct story.
Thank you.
Timeline-wise, what is that timeline? So you started working back on the island when?
Well, I graduated 2008, so I started working actually in a sushi restaurant, just sort of a work placement. 2006 that would have been, so I was, I guess, 16.
Okay, so 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. And you seemingly have excelled since then. I mean, to find yourself now as the head chef at this beautiful restaurant in downtown Vancouver is no small feat.
It's exciting for sure. You know, it's busy here for all the right reasons, and it definitely keeps me on my toes.
Is it surreal for you at all as you are called on and considered to be, like, when people call you chef and you are a head chef and you're making decisions? Do you pinch yourself a bit or poke yourself with a knife, or how does that work?
I try not to poke myself with a knife too often, thankfully, you know, knock on wood there. Yeah. But I guess it's very surreal. It all happened really, really quickly. For the longest time, I was the cook, and that's what I really prided myself in, cranking out my list every single day, and that's what defined me, was a cook. And I loved it. And then one day, I came into leadership and realized, like, no, there's a lot more to it than just the cooking side of things. It's working with people and not managing people, but figuring out a way to all come together and then really bring everything properly into the restaurant. So, yeah, I'm still kind of trying to wake myself up and see where everything's going. My wife gets upset sometimes, not for the wrong reasons, but I call myself a cook still, and she's like, "No, you're a chef," and I guess I am now. So
yeah, I think although every chef, at one point was a cook, so it's just in them, right? And some chefs were dishwashers, and some chefs were bartenders. Like it's kind of just who you are. It's almost like a tattoo that you wear.
No, exactly.
It's just who you identify with. We do have a lot of listeners that tune into this show that maybe aren't so savvy with front of house or back of house or even restaurant lingo, or kind of that delineation between cook and chef.
Mm-hmm.
So in your own words, obviously you've worked both positions now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you best describe to a layman the difference just in like the day-to-day, what you'd be doing, a cook versus a chef?
Well, I guess the big distinction for me now is I do a lot less cooking. I'm not on the line as often as I used to be. Quite frankly, not as often as I'd even like to be sometimes. I would love to be on there just pushing it out and searing every piece of fish myself. But now my job is more working with people and training people to see food the way I do, and execute our vision together. Of course, in the simplest of ways is I develop a menu with my team, and they execute it day in, day out without me having to actually cook it. A little finishing touch is all it needs, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big distinction for me was just the move from actually just cooking day in, day out and progressing that skill, and now working on my people skills.
So what does that mean for you in regards to working on different skills? Just obviously people skills, leadership skills. There's different variables now that make up your job. What does that look like in regards to learning curve? Has it been steep for you? Has it been something that you seemingly have just kind of fallen into well, or have you stumbled along the way and just kind of acted as if?
Yeah, I think I definitely stumbled here and there, but at the end of the day, it was always something that I wanted to be. Like, I wanted to be a chef since I started cooking. So I took it slow. Like, I've been cooking for 13 years now plus, kind of thing, and I've developed the skills as I've come along, and I've been really, I guess, nosy, if you will. I remember even back in my apprenticeship, I was really trying to focus on like ordering and the food costing side of things, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I wanted to learn. So I had a chance to see it before I got here, but I never. It was never fully put on me, I guess, right? So until I was actually in that role, I didn't see what it actually encompassed. Mm-hmm. I like to think I'm doing a good job, but there's always more to learn. And what I'm seeing now is it's all just strategy based. It's not defining me if my food cost is a point higher. It's how do we work through that and get better from it.
Right. And then can you share kind of how you do? So how would you tackle something like food costing being a percentage or two higher? What would be the process for you? And is it different from what you've either been exposed to or what you've heard? Are you trying to like define what works for you, or is it pretty black and white?
There's certain black and whites. Like, you're either, I guess at the end of the day, you're either making money or you're not, right? But no, there's different ways to tackle that. Like, if you see that it's a point higher, it's not just necessarily going into waste. You're not just wasting everything. You're not necessarily over portioning. Like, it's all encompassing, and it's not just food cost isn't also the only important thing in a restaurant. I want to make sure that the guests are happy and the team is happy, and if we're adjusting our costs because of that, like we're figuring out strategies to make sure we're all coming together on this to make sure everybody's happy. Yeah,
that's important. The happiness factor is huge. You seem to be someone that has their kind of head turned on right in regards to the idea of team and teamwork, and it's more than just you, and it is the team, and it's also not just you guys in the team, it's also the customers as well. Has that mindset always come naturally to you, or have you developed that mindset of I'm not bigger than this is bigger than me?
I think I started in the right way. I started in a really small, like, family-run restaurant, and we were all in it together. And it's never really changed, even on the larger side of things. When I've been in hotels, working in Whistler, let's say, there's a massive team, both front and back, and stewarding. Everything is divided, but you soon realize that you're only going to get through it if you work together. and yeah, making friends with both sides of things doesn't really hurt.
Yeah. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Dream job.
If I wasn't doing this dream job, I see more and more. I like working with my hands for sure. I'm not all that, like, I'm not a construction guy. I'm not even particularly good with my hands, but I like doing it. I like working in the dirt, and maybe being some sort of farmer would be awesome.
Yeah.
I know nothing about it, but I like being outside, that's for sure.
Is it something you geek out on a bit when you have farmers come in and bring you like unique products? Are you asking more questions than normal? And are you obviously tasting it, smelling it, touching it, feeling all those sensory things? But do you find more time now kind of picking the brains of those farmers to kind of better understand, like, how did this even come to be a thing?
Yeah, you know, I like to talk to the farmers as much as I possibly can. I try to get to the markets at least once or twice a week when I can. Right before work, I'll usually stop in. It's nice that we have the West End market on my way to work. And then when the farmers are dropping off their produce, I'm the first one to just sort of tackle it. You know, I think sometimes, to my detriment, like the pass will just be loaded up with all the radishes and the turnips, and I'm just carrying these bunches of radishes and telling everybody to eat them, and everybody really loves it, but they're like, come on, now we're trying to put out a service. But yeah, I think I definitely get pretty excited about all that stuff.
Do you find that now is kind of leaching into the restaurant as a whole? Like, has everyone always been excited about that, or do you feel like your excitement is now kind of rubbing off of everyone else, and there's a new appreciation for things like local produce and relationships with farmers and producers? How has that process been for you?
I think everybody was always really excited without realizing it. We were pretty spoiled in the fact that we were always using the best quality ingredients that we could, even at times that we didn't know what we were doing with them, and we didn't have the time to do anything special. And by that I mean, you know, we're bringing in carrots and they're going just on a roast plate, which is awesome. Like, sometimes there's nothing wrong with having the steak with the carrots that are from the farm. Everything tastes better, right? But now my focus is like, wow, these turnips that we're getting from Zachlin, they're like little sugar bombs. They're incredible. Focus on those turnips themselves.
Right.
And it's an interesting balance. Like, we're known as the rotisserie chicken restaurant that serves really good vegetables now. And everything that we're doing, people are noticing more and more, like, yeah, it's about the farmers. It's not about us. We're just here to have fun, and it's an open line. We like to hang out with people and share.
I try my best to keep all my questions on the podcast different, but there are a few that always come up, and there's two at the end, which we'll get to eventually, that I ask every single guest. But there's one that I wanted to ask you that I'm beginning to ask more and more people, and only because I just love to understand kind of how my guest's brain works and then how they feel certain things. So the question I have for you is similar that I've asked to, I mean, not to name drop, but guys like Robert Beltram and guys like Ned Bell and guys like Trevor Bird, all these names in our city that have been celebrated for so long. And then different people like architects and designers, creators, basically, people that are creating something. So you yourself and your team are creating plates, and you're creating storylines, and you're creating experiences, bringing visions to reality. And when those visions become a reality on a plate, and you send that plate out onto the floor, and it's placed on a table, in front of a guest, and that guest then engages with that plate, whether it is they smell it or they just look at it or they take their first bite, and you're there watching it. What is that like for you? What is the visceral feeling you're having? What are you feeling in the marrow of your bones when you see someone truly engaged and truly enjoying something that you and your team have created?
It's kind of selfish almost, actually, because we take great pride in that. Sometimes I actually get the cooks to just stop and look. You know, it's easy to get caught up in the day to day, and like one by one you're doing every single bill,
the
right?
whole time. Yeah,
exactly. I get it. It gets busy. But yeah, when you look over and you see somebody like sharing that first bite, or like you said, literally smelling. Sometimes people are taking it up and just smelling that plate. Like, it's cool. And when we have repeat guests come in that, you know, 1 week before they saw us getting our honey and putting all the rose petals to macerate in it, and the next week they're like, oh, like, what are you doing with that honey? Where is it? Can I taste it? It's pretty cool that we have people that are just as invested as we are, and we can share with them. Some people now, it's tourist season, you know, the cruise ships are in. We had a couple guests that would come in 2 nights in a row. They were in town for 2 nights and they came here. So it's kind of, the hashtag is cheesy, like the no place like Homer, but people are coming here and it feels like home, and it's very different from everything I've done. You know, it's not the super fine dining that's only catering to a certain clientele, which is also extremely exciting. It's everything. For some people, it's an occasion. For some people, it's every Friday. For some people, it's 4 times a week, and it's cool to cater to all of that.
I love the idea in this industry. For me, it's what hospitality really breaks down to at its core, is making someone feel like they're in your home. Myself as a restaurant consultant, I work tirelessly to achieve that with my clients. How do you do that here? Obviously, you're not tied to the back of the house, but that kind of is your realm. Obviously, I've seen you during service come out and engage with tables. Pardon me. So obviously, you're known to do that. But how do you, in your words, here at Homer Street Cafe, how do you create that it feels like home here?
Yeah, on my side of things, for sure, it's coming from the food. It's how to make things simple and present it that it's not going to scare anybody away. Of course, there's a couple things that we want to try to push just a little bit to get people out of their comfort zone just enough. But yeah, it's creating familiar experiences that are just slightly elevated. And for us, it comes down to the storytelling. You know, we're making sure we're using the right ingredients and talking about our farmers and sharing with everybody as much excitement as we have for it, so that they can feel the same excitement. Sorry about that.
Is it a vacuum?
Yeah, I think that might be a vacuum or a blender or something like that.
It's all right. It happens.
It'll turn off pretty shortly.
We're in a restaurant. It happens. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the whole experiences thing, is everybody's an individual. Of course, we have service standards that we're going to be meeting, but we take pride in being individuals. All of our service staff is individuals as well, and they like to bring that individualism, I guess, again, to each table, and just create a familiar experience that's going to make everybody happy.
How tempted are you to do that, to push the boundaries? We obviously want to make people feel comfortable and be as familiar as you can be, but I feel like that in itself may be a detriment to moving and we talked before we turn the mics on, and we'll get more into this, but moving our food system here locally in Vancouver and also in Canada, that may be a detriment to us moving ourselves forward. We need to be testing things. We need people like you and other head chefs and cooks and even dishwashers in the city that have great visions to kind of play with them and turn them into reality, so we can see. Like last night, for example, I had a sea urchin pate, which for me wasn't something I'd ever thought I would ever have, and I'm assuming for the chef was kind of a bit of a reach.
Yeah,
but they did it, and it turned out to be great. So
sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Sounds so good.
Shout out to Chef Sean at the Mackenzie Room. Nice. But do you feel like you are in trying to create this sense of hospitality, this sense of being in someone's home, and this familiarity, you are handcuffing yourself a bit with your ability to push boundaries and do something like a sea urchin pate?
Yes and no. You know, there's certain things that I wouldn't say we can't do, but there's certain things that we stay away from. But I'm also seeing that what's comfortable and normal for me and some people on my team, let's say, is not exactly comfortable and normal for everybody else that's coming in and joining us.
Right.
Fava beans, for instance, I was shucking fava beans on Friday, and almost half the people that came by didn't necessarily know what they were. So I guess in that sense, it's kind of pushing people out of their comfort zone. And you know, the classic sense, like, kids look at a fava bean and they're like, "Oh, what is that? I don't want to taste it."
Yeah.
We have 2 boys that join us quite often. Shout out to Nate and Charlie. They're awesome. They're always like, "Well, they're trying to taste everything," and so I'm like, we give them some fennel, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like that."
Yeah.
But it's pushing them just enough, right?
Yeah.
And starting them young, and it kind of goes along with that. So we're pushing the boundaries in the sense that maybe they haven't seen certain vegetables before, or maybe they wouldn't think to try like an anchovy sauce, but then when they taste it, they're like, "Oh, this is like Caesar. This
Right.
tastes good."
Yeah. Is there anything else that's kind of brewing in your brain right now that you can kind of let us kind of, being Tristen Katcher, what that looks like? Is there anything in your mind that you're like, I really want to try this out, but I'm a bit, I don't know if it's like right for right now or right for the demographic we have, or whatever it is. Is there anything that you're like, oh man, I really love to give that a go?
Thankfully, I have a lot of support from everybody on the team right now. That there's nothing that I have to be afraid of trying out. And yeah, I don't think there's anything too crazy that I have brewing that I'm gonna try to like unleash on people.
Right.
We're doing like chicken hearts and stuff. I don't think that's particularly crazy anymore, but yeah, we're probably gonna do some like fried hot chicken hearts later on, and
Nice.
that'll be enough for some people.
What's the preparation on that like?
We do them confit, and then
Okay.
we're gonna bread them and then fry them hot chicken style.
Nice.
Yeah. We kind of do it with ranch. It's something we're bring back delicious ranch sauce.
Okay.
And
But like real ranch.
well, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not just gonna buy in like the Hidden Valley, right?
Yeah. No
But,
offense, Hidden Valley.
Yeah. No offense to Hidden Valley, of course. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people that love it, actually.
Yeah.
But,
Actually, hit us up for a sponsorship, Hidden Valley.
yeah. Let's go and do this, right?
Yeah.
But no, like chicken hearts and caviar ranch. It's like fun. It's been done before, and we did it before here too. And some people were freaking out about it, but they tasted it and they loved it.
Oh wow. Can we celebrate anyone? I mean, obviously you mentioned your pedigree in regards to where you've worked and kind of experienced growing up and where you've staged. But is there anyone right now? We can talk local. We can talk national. We can talk international. Is there anyone right now that you are following, that you look at as someone you'd put on your wall as like a mentor, or someone you look up to and you celebrate what they're doing and how they're doing it?
Yeah. So I'm the reach is a lot bigger now, with the way the
Yeah.
internet's going. You can see everything around the world. For sure, I still have the mentors that I came up with, like Chef Bobby from West he taught me basically everything I know. Alex Chen at Boulevard, Roger Ma, the whole team really at Boulevard, they're all mentors to me really. Blaine Metzel and Nick Green at the Willows Inn really taught me a lot and really showed me how to see food, which
Mhm.
was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was that a pun there?
I guess kind of actually. Yeah, I didn't even mean to, right? Getting those dad jokes there. But no, really, like everybody that I've worked with, whether it's my leaders or just my team, they're mentors to me and still are. And then looking internationally now, towards Scandinavia and the way that they're treating staff and looking towards like different styles of work weeks is really
Mm-hmm.
inspiring to me now.
And what does that look like? So again, describe to the layman's here that might not know what's going on in Scandinavia in regards to this industry. What are they doing that's different, and how are they doing it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not just Scandinavia. They're doing it in the States and stuff now. In Canada, he's even trying it. Basically, I think it's no surprise that chefs work a lot of hours, and
Mhm.
there was a lot of long days happening. So some places are cutting it out and doing 8 hours. I like to say here, actually, we are doing quite a few like 8 to 10 hour days, thankfully. And it's still not as good as I'd like it to be, but it's getting closer. But around the world, if they can't make up for those 8 hour days, because when you get used to a 12-hour day, 8 hours feels pretty short, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They're substituting it with 4-day weeks or 3-day weeks even, and sometimes it comes down to changing a business model completely, closing for a day, and other times it's still sustainable for a full-time work. So it's nice to see the change.
And are you here at Homer Street, like you're just slowly testing waters with certain things and seeing how it actually, the finished product comes out, or have you found your way and this is kind of what you're doing now?
We're still testing the waters, we're always open to change. What's working really well for us right now, especially on the cook side of things, is 8 hour days. We're seeing a different style of industry, a different generation of cooks that are coming up that don't want to spend half of their day or 3/4 of their day here. Totally understandable. So for them, the 8 hour days is working, and what we're finding now is new systems to make an 8 hour day efficient for us,
Mhm.
which works. On the leadership side of things, thankfully we do under 12 hours most days. Pretty much every day, actually. I can thankfully say that, but of course there's the occasional day here and there.
Yeah.
So that's sort of our next tackle, is seeing how we can make it more sustainable for our leadership side and keep it to under 10 and 9 hour days, like a clean 45-hour work week kind of thing.
Sanity.
Yeah. I get it. I came up in that, and it was tiring, and it's time for a change.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be our identity in this industry any longer, and I think it's I've said this terminology a lot on this podcast. I think the way we've been operating in this space for, I'm going to say, since existence of this industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's no long game to it, meaning the burnout rate is just so high. I mean, we hear that term all the time, but there isn't any long game to this. And now we're seeing things like conversations around mental health and anxiety and depression and drug abuse and alcohol abuse now coming to the forefront, and there being platforms for people to engage with and reach out to and look at this industry through a different lens and have a paradigm shift and go like, oh, interesting. I didn't realize it didn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we chatted about it over coffee, but there's the restaurant that won in Paris in February. Wolfgat.
Yes.
Yeah. And they, feel free to hit me up on social if I'm getting this wrong, but from my understanding, they don't have any designation in regards to front of house or back of house. It's like everyone is on one team, which again is very challenging because does that mean like the dishwasher is the head chef, or like how does that actually work? And I haven't actually been there to see it in practice or in action, but just the mindset of they're trying to do things differently and they're not allowing for there to be such rankings in their business, which I think is just such an interesting and new, fresh way to just test it out.
Absolutely, why
and just see what works.
Yeah.
Changing gears a little bit, before we turn the mics on, I was talking to you about and kind of challenging us as an industry as a whole. Like, where are we going? Like, what is our ultimate goal? I think anyone, whether you have your own business or you're in a relationship or you're just looking to hit certain milestones personally, you need to have something to work towards. And whether you write that down or you sit and you meditate and manifest on it, whatever it is, there should be something that you are aiming for, in my opinion. So what do you think we're doing right now in our food system? Big question, I get it. But like, where are we at right now? Where are we going? Who is leading us? Why is this the way we're going? All of those things. Or does that even exist?
Yeah, huge question for sure. On the food side of things, I think especially in BC, Lower Mainland, around Vancouver for sure is what I can speak for, is we're just pushing to really celebrate what we have around us. I don't think it's necessarily any different in a lot of the fine dining style restaurants around the world. It doesn't necessarily have to be French technique or any specific region. It's about using what you have to you and letting it shine. Really just it's ingredient focused is how that's going, not with no particular style, and it's not a bad thing. We're taking inspiration from all around the world and making it work for us, and allowing, I guess some chefs will allow it to be sort of their voice on a plate and let their artistic muse, and others are more like, for myself, I try not to make it about myself. I try to let the ingredients come through and then celebrate the farmers. I think, of course, on the business side of things, as we talked about, and the sustainability side with the teams, is we're looking at ways to change the culture within a restaurant and make it less rough, if you will, soften it up a little bit in a very good way. And I think we're definitely a little bit behind in Vancouver, if I can say, from what I've seen. I haven't done enough traveling to really be in it, but from what's being reported, for sure, we seem like we're a little bit behind on that, and it's starting to happen now. There's Cook's Camp coming up and other conversations happening throughout Canada, not even just here. So it's exciting to see what's going to happen in the next, let's say, 2 years, because I think it's really going to start to propel forward.
If you could speak to every chef in this city, or every chef in this province, or every chef in this country, and you had the opportunity to pick the North Star for us as an industry, what is it? Where do you want us to be? What are we all coming together to do, consciously or subconsciously? What is that one thing? Again, very big question.
Yeah. I think we need to celebrate ourselves and just start to be comfortable with ourselves, but also be honest with ourselves. I don't think we necessarily stack up against the New York Cities of the world and the other places around that do have the Michelin ratings and whatever else, but there's no reason why we can't start to get introduced to it. And I think just being comfortable with the start and get the ball rolling, get the conversation started is what needs to happen, and celebrate each other. It's not a competition necessarily, we all do everything very differently. What we do here is different from Boulevard. It's different from Tocador. It's different from Salvia Volpe. It's different. Remember, everywhere is going to be different, and everybody has their own voice to bring to the table. And then the more we come together, I think the better we're all going to be.
Yeah, you mentioned Cook's Camp, which is happening. What's the date on that?
I think it's still a little bit up in the air. It's
Oh,
Cook's
okay.
Camp 2020 on the Instagram. I sort of shout out to it. I don't know too much about it, but hit me up and invite me to it, please. From what I can see, it's kind of along the same lines as, let's say, the Mad Symposium that was happening in Copenhagen. It's a way to bring cooks together in the Lower Mainland. Happening, I think, sometime around September 2020.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah, and if you are on the team of Cook's Camp, let us know what's going on. We'd love to help promote you guys and make this a thing. Michelin stars.
Mm-hmm.
Are they a thing for you? Is it something like you lay in bed at night and you think, man, that'd be really cool? Is that something you one day want to kind of cross off your list?
Yes and no. I'm seeing more and more that the stars don't mean everything. Mostly because they're not everywhere around the world. They hit specific cities and regions. Of course, it'd be exciting to get a Michelin star or 2 or 3 for that matter. But I've also read what happens when you do get those stars, and the stresses and anxieties and celebrations, of course, that do come with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get my feet wet and see what it's like, but it's not my ultimate goal. It was at one point for sure, but things are changing now. I want some balance with my life, and it's pretty known that 16-hour days is what happens in those kind of restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I want some balance for my team, and I want everybody to enjoy their time here and not come into work panicking that they're not going to be able to finish their list and not being able to sleep at night.
Right.
But yeah, of course, it'd always be cool to get a Michelin star. But I've also seen, just from eating around, that it's not the end all be all. Some of my favorite meals were actually not in Michelin starred restaurants. Or, for instance, when I traveled in San Francisco, a 1 Michelin star restaurant was far superior, in my opinion, to a 3 Michelin star restaurant. And I won't name any names, but
Right.
Astor was the 1 Michelin star, and it was incredible.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a subjective thing, the Michelin stars, but I really do feel like right now they do bring so much attention to those that are, like I said earlier, about those that are willing to step out a bit and do things a bit differently, and that then catches the attention of the public, and then the public obviously speaks, and then Michelin then follows suit. I would just love to see, like you said, I would love to see us not playing as small and playing a bit bigger in our city, because I really do feel like there is so much talent in the city, both current and upcoming. And I also think what we have as far as the abundant terroir is completely unique. Absolutely. And then watching the talent then engage with that abundant terroir, that to me it's the equation that you need for there to be even the discussion of there being a potential for a Michelin star.
Yeah, that's how it gets started.
Yeah,
exactly.
So whether you're foraging in the mountains or going to the ocean, whatever it is, like there's so much potential with what we have naturally in our province, in our country. I think there's no reason why we shouldn't. But I really do feel, and I wrote about this a long time ago, but I feel like Canada is that underground rock band that you see on a Tuesday night randomly because you go into the basement of some bar.
Totally.
But they're really, really good.
Yeah.
They just haven't been recognized yet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Without fail, I think everybody that visits Canada as a whole, but like, let's say Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, like the big players, pretty consistently, they're like, wow, that was some of the best food I've had. I know many chefs in the States especially that consider Montreal like still the best food city in the world. And I think it's absolutely great. I think Vancouver has a lot to offer as well. But yeah, we're doing good things here.
If you had to coordinate, and again, it's putting you on the spot a bit, if you had to coordinate a food tour around this city, let's go breakfast, lunch, happy hour
Ooh,
dinner.
Happy hour. You got to throw that one in there.
Yeah, well, it's a thing now. You see it like on every freaking sandwich board. Everyone's doing it. It drives me nuts.
Shout out to Mel. She loves happy hour,
Yeah,
actually.
oh, yeah?
Every time our weekend, we're always hitting happy hour.
That's amazing.
Yeah, okay, so breakfast, it's got to be the Red Umbrella. For
Okay,
sure.
Red Umbrella.
Red Umbrella, yeah.
I haven't been. Educate me.
It's in the West End. It's right on the corner. It's our little neighborhood spot.
Okay.
It's on Davie and I guess that would be either Pendrell or Bidwell. I'm getting my location mixed up.
Shout out Red Umbrella.
Red Umbrella. It's the best. Yeah.
What do they do? What do we need to have?
Well, they just do everything perfectly. It again, it's like kind of being home. You know, it's all very simple food. It's a diner basically. But they make their own bread. They make everything there when they can, as far as I'm aware. You know, I think they even make their own jams last time I saw. Yeah, just really simple food. For me, we get a lot of like BLTs. Their soups are always really good. Yeah. And they have a killer like BLT and soup combo.
Nice.
So, yeah, honestly, you can't go wrong.
Sounds like home.
It's simple food and it's perfect for breakfast, and it's only open until like 4 anyway. So you can't go for dinner if you wanted to.
I love that. Okay, check breakfast, Red Umbrella.
There it is. We're on to lunch now. I don't really do lunch all that often. I guess, to be honest, I don't even really do breakfast all that often. So when I do, it's Red Umbrella. So lunch is usually happening as more of a brunch style of things.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, Medina is a pretty killer brunch during anytime you want to go there.
Yeah.
And that's when my weekends are, when I eat lunch, I guess.
Yeah.
Homer Street Cafe, though, I'll give us the shout out. We have a pretty killer lunch right now with our sandwiches. And yeah, I guess otherwise I tend to go out for like pho and maybe some banh mi style thing. No particular spot though for lunch.
Right, we're spoiled for choice when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, it's too hard, you know. I don't usually make like a lunch reservation, I guess I would say.
Right. Happy hour. Apparently Mel digs happy hour.
Digs the happy hour. Happy hour. A lot of times we end up at España. It's in the West End as well, on Denman.
Yeah. Love España.
It's super good, you know, and they put out their happy hour not that long ago, so we'll always go in for some rosé and the Scotch egg, which is killer. I think it's only on the happy hour menu now, so.
Yeah, I think they brought that over from the Fat Badger when it closed.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love that.
Yeah, I don't know how Spanish it is, but
I don't, I don't really.
But you know what? Who cares?
It's just delicious. Yeah, exactly. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess that restaurant, it's Spanish at heart, but they push the boundaries a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, happy hour, España, or De Beppe. Actually, De Beppe has a really killer happy hour too.
Yeah, nice. Cool room, very cool room as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then moving into dinner. Big fan of Savio Volpe, that style of dining, and actually hit Tocador. I think that's how you say it, is Tocador.
Yeah.
Hit it last night for the first time and blew us away, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think they're doing a tasting menu now as well. It's all sort of, I guess not family style, but like share plates is what they do for it.
Yeah.
We ate the entire menu pretty much, and it was incredible.
I'll have to go back because I feel really bad. I think I don't know if I actually published it or not, but I wrote about my experience at Tocador. They just opened up, and I was just... It was like, do you know the wah wah music? Like wah wah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like to me. And I was just like, I wanted it to be so great.
Yeah.
But at the time, they didn't even have a dessert menu. And I just thought, like, you kind of need to have at least, like, give me something, like a churro or something.
For sure.
So I'll have to go back and give Tocador another shot.
Yeah, I mean, they have a new chef now. It's Justin's there now, and it was... Yeah, really a nice change of pace. The food was incredible. Service was attentive and simple. We just sat on the patio. They have a nice little bar seating for a patio, and no complaints there.
That was an amazing food tour. So if you are local or if you plan on visiting, please mark down the Red Umbrella.
Definitely Red Umbrella.
Pho or banh mi somewhere for lunch.
Hit really anywhere. Go down Robson Street, hit some ramen, go for Maritama maybe.
There you go. And then happy hour, we're doing a bunch of places.
Yeah.
De Beppe, España.
Pretty killer spots for sure.
And then dinner, Tocador obviously just popped onto the list.
Yeah.
Savio Volpe, which is a no-brainer in this city. Let's talk about cooking at home.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what that looks like, because I feel like being a chef is a bit like being a musician, whereas you go into the studio and you record all day, or you go on tour and you play your songs, and then you go home and you're wife's like, "Oh man, can you play that song for me?" And you're just like, "I just play that song all day. The last thing I want to do is play that song."
Yeah.
How does that manifest for you? Is it like that, or do you still have it within you to get creative and whip something up, or are you pulling out the craft dinner and just taking the easy road?
I guess it depends on the day. If I'm going home for myself, or it's late night after work, I eat a lot of shawarma. Go to Mediterranean Grill on Denman. That place is great. So, but otherwise, if I'm cooking at home, yeah, I still enjoy it for sure. We kind of joke that it becomes like more expensive than going out for dinner because it becomes a bit of an occasion. But yeah, I love doing it. I love feeding people. It's what I do, and there's a reason why I'm still doing it now. Mm-hmm. And doing it at home is no different. And feeding my wife, it's of course one of the great pleasures. Feeding friends, it's one of the great pleasures in life.
Yeah, dude, it's amazing. I mean, again, I don't consider myself to be even close to a chef. I can cook, but I can't chef. I think they are two very different things.
For sure.
Aside from food costing and that stuff, there is more to chefing as far as I'm concerned. But there is something about having people into your home, and whether you are boiling pasta or baking your own bread, whatever it is you're doing, there's something about feeding other people that is just, it feeds your soul.
Yeah.
And I say that about my podcast. I say that about my business a lot, about the dinner series that I do. I feel like it gives so much more to me than I do to it. And I feel like it's such a healthy thing to do. And I really wish that we, as a city, and maybe it does happen, man, it's just not on my radar, did more of that. Like these more kind of, every Sunday get together and 12 people have a roast, or 12 people just have at dinner on Sunday, and it's all about that.
It's great. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
I just think food is such a powerful thing.
For sure.
And I think the more and more conversations we have like this, and conversations around food, and making it more accessible, but also at the same time introducing people to new things, the opportunity for growth and deeper relationships is just, it's endless.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, really.
I'm big into now cookbooks.
Yeah.
I just take a lot of inspiration from them now. Now they're so well put together as well. Like their design, they are beautiful. They're becoming little pieces of art and coffee table books more than just things you have in your kitchen covered in flour and honey. Do you have any that you kind of go to, or are you more of a scroll through the internet to find inspiration, or do you pull some from your shelves? They're like, man, this one is always a go-to for me.
So, admittedly, I haven't purchased enough cookbooks in the last let's call it last year as I would have liked to. The last one I got, Mel got it for me for Christmas, actually, was the No More Fermenting book. Which absolutely incredible. Like I've pretty much read it front to back and try to read it way more often, and it blows me away every time. But yeah, I have a pretty good collection, I like to think, at home, and I love just skimming through them randomly. I'm finding, especially now with the kind of food that we do at Homer Street, I'm not really needing recipes, if you will. Like it's a lot of stuff that's already in my bag of tricks. I'm familiar.
Right.
So in that sort of sense, I'm not looking in books for recipes so much as I am just like, what kind of inspiration can I pull out? I'm seeing now books that I wouldn't have necessarily taken as seriously before when I was at, let's say Boulevard, looking for more fine dining. Now, like, home cookbooks actually kind of work for me.
Yeah.
And seeing that different style of food is really nice. I leafed through the Bestia cookbook recently, and I think it's been out for quite a while. I don't think it's anything new, but that really was pretty inspiring as well. And I try to keep up on them and see what's coming out, but I haven't gotten as many as I'd like to recently.
There's so many out there.
It's
so
crazy.
Many.
Like every week they're releasing one, it seems.
Is that something in your future? We talked about Michelin star. Would a cookbook something you would embrace?
Yes and no. Yeah, I think like if the opportunity comes, for sure, it would be pretty exciting. That's definitely, I would say, I guess one of the big changes in my role now as a chef is actually writing recipes. When I was just a cook, I would cook for myself, and I didn't necessarily need the recipes. I had my book of certain pastries and stuff, but as far as techniques go, I don't need a recipe for cream leeks, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm seeing like the merit in having recipes for that now, and I'm starting to get a bit of a backlog of them finally, and if it happens one day, it'd be great. Mel takes really great photos. I know she would like to shoot food for me.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could
shout
happen.
out Mel. She is a photographer here locally. If you need your photography taken care of, hit her up. We'll put her name in the show notes.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, Melanie
help.
Katcher Photography.
Yeah, there you go. I was just going to say, as you're talking about the cookbook, I will drop her name only because I don't think she would mind, but Andrea Carlson has a book coming out this fall, I believe, kind of all of her hits from Burdock way back when till now. But she was saying to me on this podcast, I don't know if it was on air or off air, but she was saying how she wished she had written more stuff down because she had to call a bunch of cooks that she used to work with and say, how did we make this dish? And they had to work together basically either over the phone or in person and figure out what exactly they did to create that dish. So you are still what I consider to be, and this isn't a negative thing, a younger chef who's on the up and up. Man, I would be writing down everything. Keep a book on you and just write it all down. Excuse me, because you never know when some big fancy publisher is going to walk through the door and say, hey, I think you should write a cookbook. And you go, perfect, I have
0 recipes.
or I have 75 in my back pocket.
Yeah.
I can't read it, but if I take some time, I can
out.
decipher it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any cook that's coming up right now, write your recipes down and keep them organized. You know, you have computers now so accessible. Like make a folder, do it proper because it's hard.
Yeah, data. You need that data.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you take some inspiration from the farmers when they come through the doors and they give you produce. Take some inspiration from cookbooks if you do take time to leaf through them.
For sure.
What else inspires you? Maybe not even just in the kitchen, but as a person as well. What are you inspired by? You just mentioned that last week or this week, you were out in the wilderness and took some time for yourself and Mel to kind of get out of the city and into nature. What else inspires you as a young up-and-coming chef in the city?
Yeah, I would say exactly as you just said, getting into nature is definitely something that inspires me. I'm not going to claim to be some sort of crazy hiker or anything like that. We just went camping and, not even anything crazy. We had a proper tent and we drove there and everything. We had a cooler because for me, one of my favorite things is like getting outside and cooking on a fire. Like it's being in an apartment in the city, you don't get to do that all that often. We can't even have a barbecue, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
So, when I get to get out into the trees and make a fire and really just reconnect, it's really invigorating and inspiring and relaxing all at the same time for me. That's been the big one lately for sure. I don't take as many vacations as I should, or as I could, I guess I would say. And I would love to get back into them more. But when we do and we travel around a little bit, it's really inspiring to see new ingredients. We hit up Hawaii for the first time, I guess 2 years ago now. Went back again the following year, and the fruit that was there just blew me away completely. Like it changed my mind on everything.
The flavors is just insane.
Seriously, like you've never had a mango or dragon fruit until you've had it there.
Yeah.
Or bananas or anything for that matter, really. Yeah. So yeah, I guess seeing like new ingredients when we are traveling around a little bit is always really exciting, and it's inspiring to work with people now and teach people about these new ingredients. One of my best friends has 2 kids now, and I love cooking with little Noah, like explaining and showing him what happens when you whip cream, and it's like he's struggling to whip, of course, but you get him to whip it by hand, and 15 minutes later it's whipped cream, and he's so excited about it, and it's everywhere. But it's exciting. It's really inspiring.
Personal question: kids in your future, is that something you want? Do you want some whipped creamers in your life, or
it's not necessarily in the plans?
Yeah.
I think we agreed we're not against them necessarily, but I'm definitely the better uncle. I think Mel finds herself the better aunt as well.
Right.
But life happens sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, if you ever need someone to whip some cream for you, I have a 1-year-old at home that would be more than happy to come in and make an absolute mess of your kitchen.
Perfect. Anytime.
I had a great question for you. It's now escaping me. I guess it was along the lines of, I've heard some chefs take inspiration from their walk to work or from music or from art. Does that resonate with you at all? Like, are you ever kind of, you see something, whether it it looks a certain way and it inspires you for plating, or do you smell something? Right now, obviously our city, with everything being in bloom, there's so many beautiful smells around. Do you take inspiration from that as well, those kind of subconscious things that are happening around you?
I would say I probably do a lot more than I'm even realizing. I always have either music or podcasts going on my way to work. I'm lucky that I get to walk through a farmer's market when I'm on my way to work. I also walk through a community garden, so kind of seeing what's coming up in bloom is always really nice. In terms of art, I like to look around. I try to go to the art gallery with each new exhibit when I can. I don't know if I necessarily take inspiration from the plating, but being around stuff like that definitely gives you a feeling inside, that it's something more than just exactly what you're seeing and recognizing at the time.
You shared on your social, I think it was yesterday or the day before, a link to a video that was 24 hours of a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. I watched it. It was so well done and
Absolutely.
so well produced and executed. And it really does give you an idea of what that takes and what that looks like.
The plating on that was very artistic, actually.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So how does that resonate with you when you sit and watch that? Does that in itself inspire you? Are you just look at that and you just sit there in awe? Or like, what do you, again, going back to like your feelings, what are your feelings when you're watching something like that? And what do you, when it's over and you close your laptop, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Do you walk into the kitchen with a new vigor?
Yeah, that video specifically opened my eyes a lot, actually. It wasn't necessarily my style of food. It was very artistically plated and everything. It was gorgeous food. But what really struck me was the way they interacted in the kitchen. It was very calm and gentle. Everybody was in it together, but there was still a sense of urgency, and things were obviously getting done and strict, but light at the same time.
Yeah, it was like heavy-handed but soft.
Yeah, it was really, really inspiring to see that kind of leadership. So I guess, again, tying it all back together to my new role is I'm taking inspiration in different things now, and inspiration in how to lead or trying to learn how to lead better and better myself when I can.
Yeah, I'll share that video as well in the show notes so you guys can check it out if you're so inclined. But yeah, it was the name of the restaurant escapes me.
Actually, I think it may have been Miramar.
Miramar, yeah, you're right.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Which is where, do you know?
No, it's escaping me. I think it won the Asia's Best, I believe, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably in correlation to why it was out.
Yeah, the food was absolutely beautiful. And like you said, just the way even the head chef was communicating, it was very much, it was to the point, but it was always team.
Yeah.
It had that underlying theme of, come on guys, here we go guys, this is what we're doing, we need this guys. Like I really liked that, and that resonated a lot with me.
Totally.
And I feel like that's, again, the quote in Danny Meyer's book, what is it, Setting the Table, where he says a rising tide raises all ships.
Nice.
And that for me is just so true.
For
like
sure.
When the head chef wins, they all win, and when the dishwasher wins, they all win. So
keep
that in mind.
You celebrate together and you go down together.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that Homer Street is kind of, as I look behind you, a wall full of chickens, roosters.
Yeah, we lovingly call this place the Cockpit, actually.
There you go, the Cockpit. Obviously known for your rotisserie chicken here, which is delicious. I've had it a couple times myself. But what else describes the food here at Homer Street Cafe? If people are listening, we have people all over the world.
Yeah.
How do you describe your food and what you're doing with it?
Well, we're definitely focused around the rotisserie for sure. We're thankfully getting so busy that it's actually just loaded with chicken pretty much the entire night. We were at a point before we were doing whole strip loins and things like that, but now it's full. There's a lot of chicken. So we're experimenting with like veg on there. I'm excited for when corn starts to pop off, because that'll go right into the rotisserie for sure.
Amazing.
Simple things like onions and things like that, of course.
Yeah.
Otherwise, focus for us is just using proper farm fresh ingredients when we can. We try to get it as local as possible. And then, we just get in there and try to just serve things simply again. Bring it back to home when we can.
Yeah, or Homer.
Or Homer, exactly. Just try to keep it comfortable and exciting for people at the same time.
But at the same time, pushing the boundaries just a little bit to
Just
make
enough.
you try things that maybe you haven't tried before.
Well, yeah, if you never had a fava bean, it might be a
Yeah.
little bit weird for you, so why not, right?
Yeah.
We experiment very differently with, I guess, like our marinades. You know, we'll
Mhm.
talk very openly. We use like anchovy a lot in our marinade because it's delicious and it's something people might be a little bit afraid of, and then they taste it and like, wow, yeah, okay, that actually needed it, I guess.
Right.
And then, yeah, we're not really tied down to any one cuisine necessarily, so we try to play with certain things. Like we'll preserve when we can. We're doing a lot more pickling now and like infusing, even if it's just syrups and whatever else.
Right.
Yeah, I just bringing in as much ingredients as we can. That's
I
new.
like that, which is also very fun as a chef. I can imagine.
It's tiring sometimes in the best possible way, I would say. You
Yeah.
know, it's a lot of thinking, but there's a lot to really inspire the team and invigorate them too.
The last two questions I have for you that I do ask every single guest on the podcast are these. The first one is the half a dozen have-tos. So the show is called Half a Dozen Hospitality. I have for you, Tristen, the half a dozen have-tos. And what I need from you is 1 to 6 things that you've experienced in your life that you feel like other people listening have to experience. It doesn't have to be food related. It can be if you want it to be. But I've had people talk about vacations. I've had people talk about art they've looked at, books they've read, songs they've listened to, cities they've visited, meals they have eaten, whatever it is. Or what would be 1 to 6 of your have-tos?
Okay. For sure, you have to get out into nature. Again, like I'm not an avid hiker or anything, but just get outside, get into the forest. I guess I could tie it together. I don't know if it counts as 2, but work on a farm.
Yeah, that's 2. That's a good one.
There we go. Yeah, work on a farm. It's hard work, especially if you're a cook. Work on a farm because you will hopefully treat every ingredient a lot differently after that. Like it's very tiring but rewarding.
You won't let that carrot just sit in the fridge until it's limp and
exactly.
sad.
You'll also, you'll see the merit. Like mirepoix is a thing, of course, in like French cooking, and you'll start to see where you actually need it and when you want to throw those carrots basically away.
Yeah.
Or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, work on a farm, definitely one. And disclaimer, I only did it for a summer, but it was enough to change things.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to go to Lummi Island, especially if you're in Vancouver. Yeah, it's really close, or I guess anywhere in here. You really got to get there. It's a special space. If you get a chance to eat at the Willow's Inn, all the better, but there's just something there that feels nice. It's a little tiny island, and it's incredible.
Cool. Lummi Island.
Yeah.
Willow's Inn. Check it out. Any others? Have-tos?
I guess it's again just getting with the going outside, but get into the mountains. I'm a big believer that they hold a lot of power. Like every time I drive up to Whistler, I feel like I'm like tearing up just talking about it. Like the air just changes. There's something very special about being in there.
Yeah, and we are all connected too. I think that keep that in mind as well. Whether
sure.
I believe this, and you can call it whatever you want, whimsy or not. But like the trees, the mountains, the water, the rocks, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it is beautiful up there. The temperature drops just a little bit. And the air smells a little bit sweeter, but yeah, it's beautiful up there. And we're so lucky that it's just, what is it, an hour and a bit away.
Yeah, it's everywhere,
Yeah.
And then I guess travel would be a good one. I haven't done enough of it, but Hawaii was a game changer for me. It was incredible there.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to go to Hawaii, go to the Big Island. It's awesome.
Yeah, such a beautiful place. The last one I have for you, sir, is the half a dozen haven't yet. You mentioned travel, obviously, something you want to do. So 1 to 6, 1 to half a dozen items of things that you haven't done yet that you want to do.
Yeah, so haven't yet traveled enough. Of course, need to get to the places like New York City. Need to get to Europe.
Yeah.
Would love to travel South America and Asia a little bit. Anywhere. Travel more. I haven't yet found, I guess, enough balance. I would love to find that, and it's coming, but keep working on that.
What does that look like for you when you say balance?
A place where I'm very comfortable with work and home and personal and just like everything all encompassing. I think not necessarily, it doesn't have to be routine or anything, and with that being said, I'm not particularly pulled on any one side, but yeah, I think whether it's through hours at work or just the way that time off is treated. You know, it's a very I guess more personal side of things is finding my balance right now. I struggle with it. I want to always put in more. Yeah,
Cool.
Get on that side.
I appreciate you sharing that. The last thing I'll leave you with is, as much as we do strive to in all of our lives right now, and it seems to be such a hot topic, is this balance thing, is as much as balance is great, there's also a ton of beauty in imbalance.
Of course.
And I feel like that's where we actually define ourselves, and that's where we grow, is when we are in balance. And when things are comfortable and great, that's when I feel like we all need to have our radars up a bit. And it reminds me of a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, which goes, "Everyone wishes to be settled, but only so much as they are unsettled is there any hope for them."
I like that.
So find that
That's
discomfort, find that cold water, find that mountain, find that imbalance a bit in your life, and then just watch yourself grow. Don't burn the candle at both ends.
Of course.
But yeah, be uncomfortable, because then there will be hope for you.
Nice.
I will leave you with that. I'll leave you with this. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Thank you for being so open, so humble, and for me, it can complete contradictory to what I've labeled and understood and the stigma I've attached to any chefs that I've sat down with. I do see a big change in our industry in regards to people like you and how you carry on both in the kitchen and outside of the kitchen. So I celebrate you.
Thank you.
I will continue to fly your flag and promote what you're doing no matter what kitchen it's in. But right now, obviously, I will promote Homer Street Cafe as best I can. It came up last night over dinner. One of my friends that was here with me last time I was in said it was still the most memorable meal he's had in the last few years. So kudos to you and your team. Shameless plug.
Thank you.
If you are local and you're in Vancouver, please come check out Tristen and his team. Come and eat the rotisserie chicken. Come and eat the beautiful vegetables. Come and support what he's doing. And if you aren't local and you are traveling to Vancouver, please do come and knock on the door and come and sit down and find yourself at the Homer Street Cafe and say hello to Tristen and his team when you have a chance. That is Tristen. I am Brad. This is the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as you do week after week. We truly appreciate and love you all. Any closing quotes, words of wisdom?
You know, I'll say it. I've heard your podcast. I like what you say. Like, do good.
Yeah.
Like, be good.
There you go.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thanks for coming in. I really appreciate having you in. Thanks again for eating and
Yeah.
for all the kind words for sure and all the support.
Yeah, man. No, I look forward to furthering our relationship, doing more work together, and like I said, flying the flag of everything that you do. So he said it, and I'll say it again. You know what to do until next time, guys. Be good and do good. That's it. We did it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chef.
Thank you.
Well done.